everybody. Welcome back to the Heating Up Podcast. This is your host, Jatin Khanna. Today, I chat with my good friend, Apoorv Bhargava, who is the CEO of WeaveGrid. We recorded this in his offices in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, and he's a good friend. I've known him since my early days of the CLI program, the Clean Energy Leadership Institute. He was omnipresent at happy hours. He's at every single industry event. I don't know how he does it while running his company and having a full social life, but he's one of those badass, impressive people. In this episode, we talk about how he acquired his first utility customer, how he creates value for all of his customers, whether they're utilities or EV OEMs, and overall make the grid better, more resilient, cleaner, and what the present and future of WeaveGrid look like. We also get into his thoughts on creating company culture, where he finds community, and also why he personally invests in so many of his friends' companies. So thanks for tuning in, and here's my full episode with Apoorv. All right, welcome to the Heating Up Podcast. Today we have my friend Apoorv. Wow, I fucked that up so bad.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
So nervous.
I mean,
I'm nervous.
No.
Why did I fuck that up so bad? I think I was supposed to be reading. All right, take two.
Oh, that should go in the pod.
Yeah. Welcome to the Heating Up Podcast. I'm here with my friend Apoorv Bhargava, CEO of WeaveGrid, which is a technology platform that optimizes EV integration with the grid to benefit drivers, ratepayers, utilities. Is that a good pitch?
Yeah, it's a good pitch. It's good.
Yeah.
FYI, for those listening, he definitely messed it up the first time.
Yeah. No, I will. Yeah. No, I said your name perfectly. I'm from India. I was born there.
Totally.
Indian names do not. We're actually from the same part of India, which I didn't
I
realize.
found out like last night.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wait, where were you born?
I was born in Roorkee, near Delhi.
What's that?
Roorkee?
Roorkee.
Yeah.
Okay. What state is that in?
It's technically now not UP or Uttar Pradesh. It's now Uttarakhand.
Yeah.
New state, but yeah.
Okay. But you have family in Kanpur and Lucknow?
Delhi and Lucknow.
Yeah, that's cool. Same, yeah. I was born in Lucknow and then came when I was 5.
That's right.
And you had an interesting child. You went to high school in Cyprus?
Yeah, elementary school, high school, all that. Yeah.
Middle school somewhere else?
Most of my life I grew up in Cyprus in the Eastern Mediterranean.
wild.
Yeah, moved out there when I was like 3 months.
Would you go to like an international school?
to a British school? Yeah,
Because you have a perfect accent. Like,
you know, I'm really good at faking it. Fake until you make it, you know.
But I heard you talk to your mom, you go full back to the Indian accent. So
Whatever.
it's still in there.
Yeah, catch me after a few drinks and then I'm suddenly British.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Did you go to a British school in Cyprus? Nice. But dude, congrats on all the success with WeaveGrid. Like,
Thank you.
I was looking at the website, doing my research. I mean, you have partnerships with some of the biggest utilities and EV OEMs, right? So for those that don't know, he's got partnerships and investment and programs with Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, Rivian, SoCalEdison, Dominion, many, many more. And it's been going since 2018, right?
Yeah, late 2018 is when we incorporated. We really got going in early 2019, I would say. But yeah, 2018 is the formal incorporation.
And that was still fairly early in the EV adoption cycle, right? So what made you pick this? Did you just graduate from business school at this point?
Yeah, so I did my joint degree. I did my MS and my MBA at Stanford. I think I heard you describe it as douchebag central.
Not my words, but yeah.
Yeah, not your words. Okay.
But I'm sure, I'm sure someone, I'm sure I said something.
Said that. Yeah.
To be fair, we have a lot of friends. I mean, I have a lot of friends that have done the program and are doing it. And those 4 people are great, but everyone else can go.
Everyone I know is great.
Yes.
In said program is what Jatin just said. Yeah. So I was there and I did my joint degree and you know, I've been in energy and climate my whole career. And so coming out, the question I had to myself was like, okay, well, what are you going to do next? Like, where's the place you're going to have the most impact in this space? I like looking at the, like, you know, the emissions sort of pie chart, as it were, and asking myself, okay, well, where's the place I can go drive the most impact, knowing what I know, the skills that I have, the privileges that I have. And transportation was like this obvious problem. It was just so clear that like transportation is the leading cause of emissions in the US. We actually don't have like, didn't feel like we had great answers as to how we were going to go do it, how to go solve it, except for electrification. And I think particularly when you're in Palo Alto, that point in 2016, 2017, really, I was like, man, EVs everywhere. What's going on?
Yeah, Tesla Central,
right?
Way before you have to put a sticker on it to say, I don't support his policies. I didn't know he was every Tesla out here has a sticker on it if you drive around. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it was EV Central, and the only place that was EV Central
Right.
then, right? And I think what was so clear back then was that EVs were a really great mechanism to decarbonize transportation, but if there's like a thematic through my life, how I view WeaveGrid, all of that, it's like I really like thinking about problems and systems. And I think like EVs are a great tool, but it was so obvious that we hadn't thought about the impact of EVs on the grid. And so, you know, you've got the 28% of emissions that comes from energy. That's like pretty well understood. We know what to do. We have to go decarbonize that. Solar, wind, nuclear, geothermal, batteries, go do the thing. And like I spent earlier part of my career working more on that side of the house, but it was also very clear that this integrated system aspect, which is thinking about the grid itself and how it would absorb up to 280 million vehicles, was like totally unknown.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you build a system that can both like that the vehicles are going to be dependent on in order to be fueled, and vice versa? The more EVs there are, the more the grid is now dependent on the vehicles to also help keep it more resilient and stable and affordable and clean. And so that was just like such an unsolved problem, and it came from a place of like just genuine curiosity. Like, well, I agree EVs are good, but like, how are we gonna do that?
Yeah.
And everyone was like, we just need to build fast chargers. And I was like, no, that sounds dumb. Bill, what are you talking about? And the reason is, and I love my friend,
Because the vast majority of charging happens at home.
exactly
Right.
the vast majority of charging happens at home.
Yeah.
Like 80%
Right.
even today. And you know, I've spent parts of my career also looking and working in oil and gas, and like I think folks are so quick to be like, well, no, we just need to build the networks out in exactly the same way as we did with like gas stations. Like, well, that doesn't make any sense, because even in 100% adoption scenario of EVs, like 60% still going to happen at home.
Yeah.
And that doesn't even include multifamily. So if you include multifamily workplace and single family homes, like suddenly you're talking about 80% of charging happening not at a bus charging station. So you're literally talking about 20% of the volume of fuel existing at the so-called fast charging stations, which, unlike fueling, is a capex business, because it's all about power and upgrades.
You're not paying for the power, right? You're
paying for the
pull up
paying
and,
for the upgrades.
Yeah.
And so, and you're paying for it to be as fast as possible. So it's just like, this doesn't make any sense. The economics don't make sense. What's going on? Why isn't nobody thinking about the grid? It's sort of the hidden costs. It's like the iceberg aspect of electrification.
Yeah.
Which is that we only look at the tip of the iceberg, which is fast chargers. It's the thing that's most prominently out there, superchargers, eco, whatever. But actually, the vast majority of cost of electrification really lives below the surface in grid upgrades.
Yeah.
And that
Feels like the fast charge is more around range anxiety and alleviating range anxiety
exactly.
versus the actual 90% of use cases are less than 20, 30, 40 miles. Like that.
That's your
My parents have a plug-in hybrid Volvo, which is really nice, great car. It gets 40 miles to charge, and it charges really slow at home. It doesn't matter, because to get to the office and back, you're like you fuel it once a month.
Totally.
Really, maybe a road trip. They're going New Jersey to DC, but that's it. And it's like, you can really get most of your juice out of a 50-mile.
Right. I started that. I started with a PHEV. I was driving a Chevy Volt, and that was exactly it. It was like I got 50 miles on a single charge, and
Especially in cities, you're like,
why do I know easy?
No, it's great. So now you're working with utilities and EV OEMs to kind of integrate. That's that interplay, right? So right now, how many EVs are there in the country, roughly?
About 7 million EVs.
7 million.
Which is more than the number of residential solar panels, far more than
Which
the
is
number of
fascinating.
residential batteries. Yeah, like we talk about all this.
And the battery piece is interesting, because residential batteries really, and our friend Cole, our mutual friend Cole, is working on the Pila Energy, like residential battery plug-and-play system, which I think is a brilliant solution, because the residential battery space really hasn't taken off with the same rate as residential solar. Because I think the integration, like electrically, is challenging. Like you have to get so much more permits and things like that. And the value isn't really clear. I don't think the solar salespeople can actually pitch. So like I think that attachment rate, maybe California is higher because of the policy change. But throughout the country, it's like dumb solar on your roof is what the vast majority of people have, because you can just kind of do the rate math and be like, all right, you can save money. But batteries, it's like, it's better for the grid, but homeowners don't really give a shit about the grid. An average homeowner doesn't give a shit about the grid. Whether they're buying an EV, whether they're buying a battery, it's just like, I want my stuff to work, and I want prices to be lower, and I want reliability to be high.
I mean, I think that's what so much of this comes back to, right? I mean, I listened to a podcast by a really smart guy. His name was Justin. I don't think, but he was interviewing another person, and they talked a lot about like what is it that you're building as a business, and like how do you ensure that like somebody wants to buy where you're selling, not just an idea.
An idea that helps the world or reduces carbon, which is great, obviously. You need a service. You need a real value underneath it.
And I think there's like underpinning behind WeaveGrid. It's like we've got brilliant technology. We've built like really great machine learning and AI and all that, and we've got a great software platform. We've built super cool connections to the way that we can manage cars and eventually do more bidirectionality and all that fun stuff. But like actually like the primary thing that we are so differentiated on versus everyone else is like we're really saying fundamentally like where is the value and how do we help optimize to create the most value,
Being laser focused on that.
laser focused. And actually that's a really really difficult thing in the clean tech sector, because so many people start by saying things like, but if I just shift the electron inherently, or if I just make an electron inherently, there is value. And the truth is that's just not true. Like having batteries dispatch, you know, spit out power this time, spit out power that time, that's not a valuable thing. And I love my friends in the sector, but we do get, you know, arguments about this because they are not thinking at a systems level. They're saying, but if a homeowner wants it, and if they can get backup, then inherently there should be value to the grid. And it's like, but that's not true.
No.
Like
Two different values.
totally different.
Yeah.
And in fact, like there are cheaper and easier ways to just provide power to the grid. Now, is it the cleanest? Maybe not. Is it the most like dispatchable? Maybe not. But all of those things are like additional considerations that drive more value. And I don't think we have a serious conversation about value. And I think for me, as I kind of think about the broader space within which we exist, the sort of virtual power plant, VBP space, I think there's a lot of like smoke and mirrors and like companies saying things that can happen or cannot happen. But reality is they just don't drive as much value.
Yeah.
So why we started with EVs and why we're I think very unique and different is that we really saw the opportunity space that for the first time in about 40 years, we were going to be facing load growth. And we're seeing that happen both with electrification and most importantly with AI. And electrification represented load growth in a very different way. It represented a huge amount of growth of electric demand at the bottommost part of the grid, what's known as the distribution system. The poles and wires.
Where people are using it.
Exactly, where people are using it. And that part of the grid has not been upgraded for like the last 4 years. And it is feeling intense pressure from below, which meant that we have to completely rethink the architecture of even building a platform that could drive that value. But what it also meant was we had an opportunity to see how do we drive the most value possible. And you know, you're in my office right now. If you look around, you're going to see a lot of disco balls.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, we can talk about it later more if you want.
Yeah,
like our platform is called DISCO, Distribution Integrated Smart Charging Orchestration. And that those first two words, distribution integrated, now at this point, every competitor out there says, we also do distribution, we also do distribution. And the truth is, no, they're just like, try to lump in some number and hope that their economics become better. But we actually, from day one, architected the platform to account for that value stream that like no one was being able to tackle. And we uniquely built a platform that can tackle the problem, hence create value, and hence split back the value with the customer, with the utility, with the OEM.
Can you break that down in like lay person's term, and just to zoom out, like let's use like rough example. Let's say you're in Palo Alto, and you're working with Rivian. So let's say there's 1,000 Rivians, and each battery is 100 kilowatt hours, right? So quick math on that, you have 100 megawatt hours of storage, which is pretty big. If you're in the business, that's a pretty big battery.
Basically, WeaveGrid is trying to build one of the world's largest batteries through aggregation and through dispatchability.
So you have, what's the, let's say PG&E, and you have Rivian, and you have 1,000 Rivians. What is Disco doing and partnering with those two?
So I'm going to use the can for those of you watching on video, but for those of you on the pod not watching, I'm going to explain it in as simple a way as possible. Imagine the can of sparkling water that I'm drinking being your average neighborhood transformer. When I plug in a vehicle, it starts to fill up the can because now I'm asking for load that's coming from the power plant and is inherently creating, some amount of utilization on the system.
And that's a voltage level, right? Like, or is it, what is it?
Some amount of power, right?
Okay.
So like a Rivian charging at home is about 10 kW.
Okay.
And the can is rated, the transformer is rated for 25 kW in an average neighborhood.
Yeah.
10's a lot.
Oh, okay. 25 for the total
25
neighborhood.
is the total
Neighborhood.
neighborhood transformer that serves 4 to 8 homes in the Bay Area, probably close to 10.
Okay.
Each car is charging at 7 to 10 kW.
Oh, wow.
Some even at
So that's the
15.
problem immediately.
Yeah, well, that's not. The first car may not be the problem.
Right.
The second car, you're starting to get pretty hairy because, people are also using hair dryers and microwaves and washer machines and lights. The third car, you just overloaded the transformer. The fourth car, you probably blew it up.
Yeah.
And that happens because we do these silly things called time of use rates where we tell everyone, hey, it's much cheaper to charge at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
So everyone plugs in and sets their timer to start at 10.
Everyone in the neighborhood, everyone in the district,
Everyone
everyone in PG&E's service territory, which is huge, gets like a chart that says
It's cheap.
you should charge at 10 p.m., 1 a.m., 3, whatever it is.
And the reason they do that, which is a very sensible, low cost, pretty effective tool known as time of use management, is essentially the same reason that, 10, 15 years ago, like you and I had grandmas in India, we'd have to call grandma on the weekends and at night.
Because the phone card.
Because the phone card.
Yeah.
It was cheaper.
Yeah.
Because less people were using the telephone lines back then.
Yeah. That's the perfect
Yeah,
analogy.
so that was exactly what we did. Well, the problem is if everyone starts calling grandma at exactly the same time, or if everyone starts charging the car and now overloads your can, and now the can is spilling over, you just caused a problem.
So what happens to that transfer? Is it actually blow?
It can blow up.
Yeah.
It can literally catch on fire.
Literally catch on fire. Wow.
And distribution level failures are actually the primary cause of sparking ignition in wildfire resilience. In wildfire
wow.
interests. So we're not saying it's because of EVs.
How prevalent is this in the U.S., like with the EV adoption rates going up? Are we seeing it?
I would say we're seeing accelerated failure of distribution assets.
Yeah.
We're not seeing necessarily fires. Fires are the last problem that happens. But like what you are seeing is that an average asset, the can, as it were, the transformer can, it's supposed to last you somewhere in the order of 30 years. Mm-hmm. You've got, the average life rate now of most assets on the field is somewhere on the order, like average assets are already 25 years old. So instead of lasting that extra 5 years, maybe they're only lasting another year, 6 months. So you're seeing accelerated degradation and failure, which is really scary.
And does that mean, let's say the 25 kW transformer blows, is that neighborhood of 10 houses is out of power for until that transformer is replaced?
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
And so what Disco does is it says, well, when you plug in your car, do you really need it? Do I really need to fill the can up
From 10 to 2 a.m.?
10 to 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And you also at 10 to 2 a.m. and you also at 10 to 2 a.m. and you also at 10 to 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Or if I know that Jonathan needs to leave at 7 and I need to leave at 6 and Joe needs to leave at 8, can I actually spread that out in a much more intelligent way based on knowing Jonathan's needs, based on knowing the grid's needs, based on knowing, how much clean energy there is in the system at the same time, and basically do that cross coordination to ensure that the can doesn't ever get overloaded. And also at the same time, making sure that people still get the cheapest possible charging, but also the cleanest and most resilient charging.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what it's doing. But now it's doing that in a multiplicative way, parallelized millions of times across all the different assets.
Is that where the machine learning aspect comes into it? So it starts actually learning the habits and optimizing over time.
Exactly.
And can you do that with EVs that aren't on your platform? It can do with any EV that's in the PG&E program, or is it only with the ones that you have on your website?
Sign up. You have to sign up.
It's opt-in.
Program. It's opt-in still. And, there's definitely a world in which we are seeing programs talking about opt-out.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because the psychology of opt-in versus opt-out. I'm sure you've read Nudge or all those things.
Well, I also worked at OPower.
Okay, so that's all about it. That's all about it.
It was very much the same concept, exactly. And it was all behavioral nudging, but it was all very opt-out driven. I mean, I think what it is like, in early adopter phases of a lot of these kinds of things, like you need to be a bit more opt-in. But ultimately, I view it and have the vision of like having this be inherently just a part of the ownership experience.
When you get an EV.
When you get an EV. And so with Rivian, for example, basically when you buy an EV, we're just going to have you almost just it's just going to be a part of that experience of owning an EV, which is you're going to have a smart charging program on the back end that is powered by WeaveGrid.
And it's a no-brainer because you're not sacrificing anything as a homeowner or as an EV owner all that's happening is the grid is benefiting and you're actually getting a savings.
Correct. I mean, you, by participating, are literally getting monthly, daily, weekly, whatever it is, whatever mechanism we establish with the utility, you are getting those monthly bill savings.
So why are you saving money? Is it because you're avoiding the transformer replacement, or is it power pricing, or it's all of the above?
It's all the above.
Yeah.
And this goes to a concept that energy wonks love to talk about. It's this thing called value stacking. But basically, it's saying, look, avoiding my fizzly water can from overloading is only one of the things that I can help you with. If I can actually use the same asset base, in fact, by creating portfolio of assets, aka EVs, batteries, whatever, if we can like avoid the can and another can and another can, but also a power plant from not having to overload or not having to run, we can stack all of that value. We're inherently creating a lot more value per vehicle. And I think that allows you to then actually give those savings back to customers.
Yeah.
And that way you can reduce their bill every month. And this is the most important thing. And I think the piece that like our industry misses the most, it's not just about what the customer with a car or with a battery can save. It's also about what the person who doesn't have a car, who doesn't have a battery, the people who actually are most subject to rate volatility, hurting their lived experience.
For nothing that they've done on their own.
Nothing that they've done. How do we help their bills go down too? And that it's something super wonkish, but it's known as non-participating ratepayer, non-participating customer benefits. I think our whole sector sucks at actually figuring that out.
Yeah.
Our sector sucks at it because we talk so much about the customer centricity, which I love. I'm a deeply customer centric person too, but like we're rarely, when you're talking about VPPs and managed charging and all these other things, we're rarely talking about only customer benefits. We are building system solutions, and system solutions inherently must drive benefits for the most non-privileged who also do not have those things. Otherwise, it's just kind of pointless.
Yeah.
And so I deeply believe in like energy being like something that has to be equitable. And I really think that a lot of our programs, a lot of our approaches to these things have to drive savings for everyone. And it's built into our DNA at WeaveGrid. It's built into the way our product works. And it just puts us like, miles ahead of the pack, because then when we show up and we show those results, regulators, utilities, automakers, everyone is like, whoa, that's really different.
Yeah.
And so, that's a big part of what I'm proud of the work we've done.
So, utilities are seen as, in our space, as kind of the old school, static, monolithic entities that hate change. What was your experience getting what was your first utility, and how did you get them on board?
Yeah, the first customer we signed up was a utility called Baltimore Gas and Electric. PG&E. They are based out of Baltimore, of course. Makes sense. And they're part of the Exelon family, so the largest utility from the country. And I mean, look, I think there is no such thing as a monolithic utility. There's no such thing as a monolithic team. You've got people with very different like aspirations and goals and willingness to take risk. And yes, it's definitely an industry that's risk averse, and rightly so. Their job is to keep your power on, and to keep it as affordable as possible. I mean, that is a really difficult job, and increasingly becoming more and more difficult. And so we were very, very, very fortunate that we had a great champion, a gentleman by the name of Devesh Gupta, who leaned in, was really excited about what we were doing. And I remember listening to the pod he did with Mish, but it's funny. It was sort of the, hey, I've got a problem. It sounds like you guys might have a solution. I was like, yeah, we totally have a solution. It's like 70% baked for what they were really looking for.
Sure.
But like, it was 70% baked with 30% pretty easily able to be built out. It was actually more the customizations we needed to do at that point for them. But like,
you had the platform that you already
starting to
build.
And we didn't overdo. That's it. I think a big lesson learned
early on
is like never overbuild a thing until you really know you have a market set, clutch set. And so I think we had something there, and they had a real pain point, and we were able to kind of solve it. And so started with Baltimore Gas and Electric. Got really lucky with them. We won an amazing DOE grant in 2020, and then we were off to the races.
Which office was that?
That was the Vehicle Technology.
Nice. BCO? Shout out.
Yeah,
it's interesting because, especially on the startup side, I think there's so many brilliant people with like a great idea, great technology, and they're just like so focused on building it. I mean, we were talking about Silicon Valley, the TV show, and it's like that's kind of like spot, yeah, the documentary. That's but they still get obsessed with the thing that they're building, whether it came from a lab or a university, and they're like, wow, this is so cool. It's like, yeah, but is it anyone going to pay you for it? Is it going to be cheaper than the other stuff that's out there? It's going to be better. And like, especially with utilities, if their rates are pretty stable and they're providing reliable electricity and everything's going well, they really don't have any incentive to like take this risk. The only time they're going to take, and any company's going to take a risk on a startup, is if it's solving a problem that no one else has really been able to solve well. And that's why they're going to be like, hey, this is a gap, and like no one else is lining up because no one's even thinking about it the way you're thinking about it. Yeah. And so what was the next step with BG&E?
Well, I think, look, one of the other mistakes that like a lot of us make in our sector is like, we don't know how to recognize compliance-based buying versus value-based buying. And I use that framework a lot internally as well. Compliance-based buying is where you have some sort of regulatory mandate on who is a utility, because essentially utilities become change agents for whatever policy the state,
like renewable energy standards, renewable portfolio standards,
and like, that's great. Like, I'm very pro all of those things, but at the same time, like, they, even as a private entity, become a tool for the enablement of those public policy outcomes. And so, as a large systemic institution that is regulated and has national monopoly, I actually think they're an excellent vehicle. Now, you can debate the ownership structure. We can talk about whether it should be private or public. I don't really care, to be honest. I've seen goods and bads across all of them. But the thing that actually is great is, like, if you do say, this is the outcome, I'm going to incentivize you to hit that outcome. As a regulator, if you say that, I'm not going to be prescriptive on how to get to that outcome. I'm just going to tell you should get to the outcome. They're really good at trying to figure it out. And actually, that creates a compliance-based approach, a mechanism by which a utility says, fine, this is my compliance obligation. How do I hit it? Right? Now, whether
there's 10 different ways to hit
an
80% renewable. Is it hydro? Is it geothermal? Is it?
They don't care. They're going to figure it out. And they'll find the best way to
in the most cost-effective way.
So that's compliance-based buying. Value-based buying is, there's an inherently new problem, or an old problem, whatever. There's a problem where I don't know how to resolve it, and I need to build an ROI business case. And I do think that load growth and the ability to keep your lights on while keeping rates affordable is not actually a compliance problem.
No.
It's actually a value problem, which is like, how the hell do I keep the grid reliable, affordable, and clean, a trifecta, a three-legged stool that is very difficult to meet? And increasingly, we find one of those legs always falling apart. And so that's a value. And there is an ROI business case that you can drive really quickly if you know how to sell to those three legs of the stool. And that's, I think, the difference between compliance, where it's just like, look, man, I just got to meet them at mandate.
Right.
I don't really care.
Who's the lowest solar PPA?
Yeah, just give me the thing.
$30. You're good. Yeah.
Whereas, like, here it's like, oh, what's the best solution? And the best solution in conversation is very different. And I think with all of our success stories, whether it be working with PG&E out here in California, whether it be BGE out of Baltimore, Excel Energy out of Colorado, always actually, maybe there's been some compliance noise in the air, but actually the value has been the main pull.
So what was the BG&E? So, like, because I don't think of Baltimore as a heavy EV area. So
no, Maryland's pretty
heavy.
Okay. It's like third in the country in terms of EV adoption relative.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Third or fourth, yeah.
So this was in 2018 or 19 when you signed, when did you start talking to BG&E?
We started talking to them in 2019, and then we signed in 2020.
2020. And what was that first product? Like, was it doing?
So that is one of those places where compliance helped, right? So the compliance mechanism was essentially, they had to give out a certain set of rebates to customers who had EVs to collect data to better understand how charging was affecting their distribution system. And they found that there wasn't actually that much data coming off of smart chargers, the sort of old yesteryear smart chargers, and they were kind of curious.
Home chargers?
Home chargers.
Yeah.
And they were curious if there was a different mechanism that they could leverage to collect data. And we had telemetry that we could collect from Tesla vehicles in particular. And so Tesla was like, is still, but was back then predominant in terms of vehicle sales and adoption. And so we were able to kind of co-create a product for them that really allowed them to get that visibility in vehicles, understand how people were charging, build out the reporting such that they could provide that back to the regulator. And yep, this is what's happening. This is the impact we're seeing. And then what the great stepping stone from there to the DOE project was, called Smart Charge Management. It's now become sort of the flagship EV VPP, EV managed charging, whatever you want to call it, in the world at this point. Like literally I've got Hyundai and Kia in Korea saying, hey, we want to learn or know that program. So all over the world.
And the layperson VPP is a virtual power plant.
Correct. Yeah. It is neither virtual. It is neither a power plant. So it's kind of like Voltaire said. Yeah. He said, the Holy Roman Empire. It's neither holy, it's neither Roman, and it's neither Nemesis. So my problem with the term VPP is it's not a power plant.
Thanks, Jigger.
No, I love Jigger.
I know.
That's my natural.
Same.
The term VPP did not come from Jigger. I think the term VPP has been around for a very long time. I think it's actually
mainstream though.
It's been mainstream recently. And what the biggest question of the EVPs today is again, how do we prove the value out? And how do we then take the obvious value creation that can happen and then scale those things? And that was really what the DOE SCM program is all about. It was saying, hey, in PGE, you've already got this data collection program that you're running through compliance. Can we provide some amount of funding via the DOE to supercharge that button and to actually drive savings via a active load reduction program?
Yeah.
Where customers don't even notice that's happening in the background. And so we did that, and we did it in partnership.
How much did you get from the DOE?
I forget the total award to BG. I think it might have been on the order of about $5 million or something.
Okay. And that went to BG&E and you as a partner, or those?
We were a partner. Yeah. But so was Argonne National Labs. Cool. So was BGE.
Yeah.
So, there are others. But what was really cool was late last year, early this year, I forget when, Argonne did a sort of valuation. What they found was that, if WeaveGrid's product was used across BGE at scale, not even 100% scale, you'd be saving on the order of about $215 million in distribution spending in just the next few years.
Wow.
Because that's how much growth of EYs is going to cause strain on that part of the system.
Yeah, that's a big number.
And that number came out to about $300 per car per year of active savings on just distribution savings across WeaveGrid. And that's massive.
That's huge.
That's massive.
That's really
right?
huge. Yeah.
And I think that's what
that's a neutral study. That's not you guys paying someone to.
Yeah.
That's pretty badass. Well, how much have you scaled with BG&E today?
Yeah, so what's amazing is, thanks to that work, thanks to that pilot with the DOE as well, the Maryland Public Service Commission approved basically a full territory-wide scale-up. And so we're now scaling like crazy, tens of thousands of vehicles on the platform, vehicles with chargers. We have via both of those, vehicles with chargers. So yeah, it's pretty great. We are super excited. I mean, the key is how do we keep making it easy for customers to sign up?
Yeah.
And that actually becomes the hardest art. It's
it's still opt-in in BG&E and is it opt-in pretty much everywhere in the U.S. right now?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think BGE was actually keen to see if we can move to an opt-out model, but we'll probably get there down the road. I think again, the analogy I use and the metaphor I use is, think about your cell phone, right? Your cell phone today, I don't have it in my hand, but my iPhone, when I walk around the city, it moves from 5G to 4G plus to 4G LTE to 5G plus. What that is that's continuous load management.
Yeah.
That's essentially the Apple working with AT&T and some middleware that is essentially load managing how much Netflix at what bandwidth I can stream while walking around.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
The vehicle is the iPhone. BGE is AT&T, and we are that middleman that is actually orchestrating.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
But the thing is, the way I get an unlimited package from AT&T is AT&T charges me $45 a month. And I don't really think about it. I just know that they can always do something to my signal, we take it for granted.
You don't notice.
We don't notice, right? And that's essentially the experience that I'm keen on having. I don't want to think about not being able to call grandma late at night.
Right.
I want to have it be continuous, and I want to be able to use my services I want. But if you're doing something in the background, that's perfectly fine. That's just you managing my device and meeting the needs of the network. And in return, I get a discount, right? For my unlimited plan is $45 a month because they're giving me a discount to be able to curtail me all the time, which is what they're doing.
Right. So what do you see as the next 5 years? I mean, there's a lot happening with AI, with load growth, decarbonization.
Totally.
And EVs, I think, are still going to, regardless of the administration shift, I still think the EV train is moving pretty quickly. What do you see as the next 5 years of WeaveGrid?
Well, I mean, just to be clear, EVs are going to happen one way or the other, no matter what administration does what.
Yeah.
Because EVs are just, probably, unless we want to completely lose economic relevancy in the world.
Yeah.
Like China is building EVs faster than anything.
Yeah.
And like
Faster, cheaper, and
Faster,
better,
cheaper, better.
arguably.
Yeah. And I think like there's a real gauntlet being thrown down to the rest of the global OEMs, which is, are you guys going to be able to catch up or not?
Yeah.
And so that's happening. It's happening at a faster pace everywhere in the world. I think America is like falling behind a little bit. But as I mentioned, 7 million EVs still growing every quarter. And 7 million EVs is greater than the number of residential solar panels on people's roofs. 7 million EVs amounts to...
This is fascinating. I don't think people know that.
Most people don't know that.
That's a fascinating...
crazy thing that most people don't realize.
Yeah.
Is because we fight so many wars over net metering this and net metering that. Little amounts of...
I'm like, my kind of not that hot take is like, I don't really give a shit about residential solar. I worked at First Solar for 7 years. So like we would do 100 megawatt plaque. That was a small project for us.
Sure. Yeah.
That's like more than what Sunrun's doing in a whole year.
It's a great hot take. I'm really grateful.
And it's a smart, centralized plant that can do all the things that a grid operator wants.
Agreed. And I think this is the point, right? It's like the 7 million EVs amounts to about 40 gigawatts of battery capacity,
Which is tremendous.
40 gigawatts is more than what Anthropic is projecting the AI load growth is going to be over the next 8 years.
It's just crazy.
There are more gigawatts sitting around in people's garages today than what the AI companies are saying are going to is going to be required in the next 8 years. What's crazy to me is like, imagine the number of EVs we're going to have by then. And imagine how undertapped that resource base is today.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, like across us and our competitors and everybody else out there, we are scratching the surface of the number of vehicles that are under management on all of our platforms combined.
What do you think the total is with you and all your competitors? Is it?
I mean, EPRI did a study.
100,000?
Yeah, EPRI did a study on this. EPRI being the sort of third-party research group for the utilities. They did a study, and they basically said, like, if we include, like with WeaveGrid and a couple other folks, we basically come out to like less than 5% of total EVs being utilized in active and actual like control edge charging, not in like, okay, we're just collecting some data.
Sure.
Active, it's even less. It's like 1%, 2%.
Yeah.
Just nuts. We're just scratching the surface. And so imagine what happens as you unlock 10, 15, 20%. In some of our biggest programs, we're at 10 to 12% of the total territory. We're seeing significant...
That's 10 gigawatts is like an entire state. Some small states will have 10 gigawatts of total power. So what do you see as your role in that next 5 years? Is just getting that, to get exponential penetration.
Keep helping the grid, right? Like at this moment with AI, with renewables growing, with AI growing, there's a need for more of this flexibility and stability that EVs can inherently bring, whilst also helping what is, I think, growing into a political football of affordability, which is how do we keep rates low?
Yeah.
How do we bring down rates? And WaveGrid is one of the very few tools that is proven to again and again work. And I think we're going to go keep scaling that and do that work. I think also the inherent question that our customers keep asking us, and I think every company gets, when they deliver, when they are a trusted partner, they get asked the question by their customers, well, what are you going to bring us next? And I think we try to be both front foot forward by having ideas, but we also try to listen, of course, to the market. And I think the place that we're excited is like, look, if we're delivering the value we're delivering with EVs, what's the next asset type we can grow into? And I don't think, again, that you should just do many things I actually think that's what leads to companies failing to have focus. Yeah. But I do find that, like, for us, like, we view home batteries as an EV without wheels. People often say EVs are just a battery with wheels. I think about it the other way around. EVs are a far more complex resource to handle. Home batteries are just an EV without wheels. Easier. I know exactly where they are. And so...
And there's not that many of them.
Many of them. But they are really powerful again, and they are growing. And I think there is...
But aren't all those already integrated with whoever sold it to them? Like, isn't there something already? Yeah. So you need to, like, kind of...
So as you think
bypass,
we'll optimize, you think about like what can we do more for the grid, and there's more and more there. But yeah, I mean, I guess as boring as it sounds, like I think for us, the business is really for the next 3 or 4 years, like really support this moment, this once in a generation moment, which is happening with AI and electrification and all of this load growth, and really try and leverage all of these assets that are out there and turn them into be really valuable for customers and for the grid and of course for society.
Yeah, so is it look like to you just you're already with a bunch of utilities? This is getting higher penetration of those utilities, right? Because you're still pretty low.
For sure. Yeah.
It's not pilot per se, but it's like a step beyond pilot.
Yeah, what we call programs.
Programs, yeah.
So it's scaling.
Yeah.
And that's good because the scaling journey actually teaches you a lot about not what's wrong with you, but what's wrong with the end-to-end system.
Yeah.
What I mean by that, right, is just to give you an example. It's like, well, if a customer has to sign up for the program and they had to fill out 3 different forms, maybe the first 100, 500, 1,000 customers are willing to do that. When you're talking about
The early
100,000
adopters,
customers,
yeah.
they're kind of like, I have 5 seconds of patience. You made me fill out a what? I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I don't care if you figure it out.
I don't believe you're going to save me $50.
I don't believe you're going to save me. Yeah, and it's like, I get that. Like, that's a very real,
100%.
appropriate reaction to, hey, like, what is this?
Yeah.
How am I doing it?
Yeah.
And so again, you have to make it seamless. Like my iPhone, I get free HBO. That's what I really care about. It's like I get free HBO with my AT&T. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like that. So how do we continue to make the value proposition really easy for customers, make the experience really easy?
Yeah.
And again, continue to make it just a part of the default ownership experience. And Rivian is one, Tesla is another. I mean, like we're working with more and more partners on enabling this at scale, but also making it just really easy.
It's funny. This is a weird analogy, but I remember like I got a letter in the mail from Amazon. This is probably like 5-6 years ago. It was a physical letter in the mail saying, you've had a Prime account for 10 years. Did you know that Prime has a streaming service and you haven't opened it once? And I'm like, oh, okay. And then like I was like, ew. But now it's like it's a big service. So it's like you're already in this network, but you just use the thing. Why not? And it's like that's when you're buying an EV. Ideally, it's like part of the value of the EV. It's like, hey, not only is this gonna save you on gas money, it's gonna actually do this grid service that you won't notice anything at all, and it's just gonna save you money.
So much of what I think about is that the EV ownership experience is inherently a better experience, but you cannot take that for granted. And I think so much of what the early mistakes was on the non-EV centric OEMs, you know, the ones who had all the different brands, whether it was ICE vehicles, EVs, they sort of like tried to make it equivalent to the ICE experience versus trying to think about how do we just inherently make it better.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that we get to use products like WeaveGrid to do is like, hey, we're just enabling you're making your life better. You don't have to think about charging anymore.
Yeah.
Just go home, set it, forget it, don't think about it.
Right.
I think that's where we want to go. But WeaveGrid, weirdly, doesn't view itself, and I don't view us as like an EV-only company. I view us as inherently like a company that's providing value.
Right.
Grid to people, to everything else. And it doesn't, our name isn't EV Grid, it's WeaveGrid.
Yeah.
So we're really thinking about how we weave together all of these resources into the grid and make it a part of the grid and do that in a really, really valuable way.
Cool. I saw your values on the wall, AC Fuel, which is a fun acronym.
Really funky.
How do you think about like building culture? You're 75-ish employees now, so it's pretty decent size. How do you attract good talent, and how do you like build and cultivate a culture here?
Yeah, I think I always think about that, and I always continue to think and iterate and consider my learnings there never done. Look, like, let me start even bigger than company, right? It's like having grown up in different places. Like, what is the word culture? You talk about it in a corporate setting, I think too many people try to turn it into what are the words on your wall?
Right.
How do you? But like, when you grow up in a country, you grow up in a city, you grow up in a state, whatever, you have culture.
Yeah, it's inherent.
Yeah, it's inherent.
Yeah.
But like, what is it? It's like you absorb the things that are there. If you live in Philly, you're obsessed with the
Eagles.
The Eagles.
Yeah.
You're like, if you're in.
And you're not even taught it. It's just part of the blood. You just walk around, everyone's feeling it, like it's just there.
That's exactly it. And I think it's just inherently there is exactly what culture is. Now, in a company, because you're starting from scratch, especially as a founder, you're starting from scratch, you get to build it, you get to evolve it, you get to set the tone of what it is, given the realities of what you're facing as a business. In certain moments, maybe it's about like being a little more easygoing and like going with the flow and doing that. In other moments, it might be like, guys, we've got, this is not us entirely, but if you were dealing with some of the implications of the big beautiful bill, maybe you've got to be more, like rigid and more like, focused on cost savings and so on. So it totally depends. But what I think a lot about vis-a-vis culture is like, if a new person enters the business, how do they operate? Back to the if you
What are
want
the
to
norms that they're operating in?
norms,
Yeah.
exactly. And like, what do they think in order for them to be successful at the business, they need to be emulating and doing
Yeah.
and showing up as?
Yeah.
Because if you want to be successful in Philly, you really got to like the Eagles.
Yeah.
Right? And if you don't, like, honestly, you're going to be kind of ostracized.
Yeah.
And I think
If you're wearing a Patriots hat in Philly, you're never getting promoted. You're just you're literally
not gonna
you're
get
screwed.
promoted. You're probably not going to get a girlfriend. Like,
Yeah.
it's sort of the same thing at a company, which is like, how do you create a set of values that you believe in that are actually inherent to the success of the business
Yeah.
in what you want to accomplish from a mission perspective, from a financial perspective, and at the same time, then how do you allow those values to become like the vibe when someone walks in, which is fundamentally what culture is.
Yeah.
And I think like anyone who claims that they have it perfectly figured out is just bullshit.
For sure.
I have already found myself evolving our culture multiple times over the years. And I think continuously thinking about how do we make it better, how do we make it better, how do we... So yeah, that's sort of the journey I think I've gone through culture.
Have you had any issues with culture? Have you had any moments where you're like, damn, I can't believe we're... Because my like philosophy is, and I've worked at only giant, places between First Solar and DOE. But I think LPO had like a micro culture that was established under Jigger and has changed a lot in the new admin. But I think there's like the culture you allow and the culture you encourage. When you don't encourage something, there's just the stuff that people just get by with. Is it like, vying for power and be like not actually promoting each other and like shutting other people down, speaking over each other, like that stuff can become the culture, that nefarious stuff, if you don't actively cultivate the positive stuff that you want.
Yeah, 100%. You model behavior that you want. You have to ask your leaders to model the behavior you want. And if you slip on that, or if you're not intentional about it, slipping is one thing, which is like literally you're letting the opposite thing of what you want to happen. And then if you're not intentional, like, hey, you're just like kind of let things happen, but really like intentionally weed it out or do the right things and model it. Yeah, that also did that. So yeah, we've had moments like that. And I think like the best things that can happen in those moments is like just reinforcing what good looks like and stamping out what bad looks like. I think the biggest mistakes I have made are always been around I think doubting myself and doubting my set of beliefs about like what I think a healthy work environment and also a healthy performance culture looks like, and letting others define it too much. Like I believe in feedback from others, and I believe in other people always being very knowledgeable about what is good, what is bad. But I think I've lived in a lot of imposter syndrome at times, and I've allowed that to like dominate how I view what I want the culture to be, and actually ultimately, but that's my decision, no one else's. So
yeah. And then you've attracted a lot of great talent. I know you've taken from the CLI pool. Can you talk about hiring strong people and also just like how the CLI community has been a big part of your journey?
Yeah, I think I have the highest concentration of CLIs of any clean air.
How many roughly do you think you have?
8.
So 10% almost.
Yeah, no. Yeah, probably 6 or 7 now. Anyway, yeah, no,
it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty solid.
I will say randomly, because LPO didn't have, I think we got our first, we had C lines that joined later.
Yeah.
But I was always trying to get more LPO people in. So shout out Alan. I think Zainab just joined. But it's funny, the Water Power Technologies office that does hydro in DOE. It's such a niche, tiny office. And they send 2 people to CLI like clockwork every year. So it's funny how there's those CLI pockets of people that become evangelists and just indoctrinate all their coworkers. So I feel like they were pretty a weirdly high concentration, because I feel like half their office is CLI.
That's so fun. I would have had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very early CLI, right? I was 20.
DC, right?
Team.
Yeah. Were you the first or second cohort?
Yeah, one of the first. Exactly, one of the first cohorts. I would say I joke with a couple of friends who were in the previous cohort, which I was like, you guys weren't serious. You were mostly a drinking club.
Yeah.
Not NFP. But they hate that, of course, because they were serious.
And it was $25.
No, it was 0.
It was free.
It was free.
I think it was 25. Now it's 5,000.
To be honest like that.
Were you literally just meeting at bars in DC?
No, that's what I'm saying. We were the first. We were very professional.
I know.
We were one of the first professional cohorts. We had lecturers and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And we met every week of some office.
Yeah.
Whether it was the Opera office or the SoCalEdison office or the whatever office. So, yeah, no, it was a very, I think it was a very substantial experience in the fact that I was relatively new to DC, but not necessarily new to energy. But I think it was a good grounding in the fact that it's not hard to get up the learning curve. And CLI exposed me to a lot of great people who are now like doing amazing things, of course, in their own rights. But there's so much cross learning you have across these different sub-segments within energy.
And it's peer learning is so much more powerful than like the
Like
professor.
learning was right. It was the most important thing. And yeah, and then what I loved about it after that, and of course we're an example of this, is just the networking goal.
Yeah.
The community you build, right? And the network almost sounds kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like
we're actually friends. Like I'm staying with you this week, right? Like
that matters so much more.
yeah.
And that piece is this like it's a superpower that we have.
It feels non-transactional. It feels like the values of CLI, going back to values and culture, is like helping people for the sake of helping because we're on this mission together, not because I'm trying to get financial gain or something out of it.
I mean, and I try so hard, and it's become harder and harder as the alumni base has grown. But like whenever a CLM reaches out and is like, I just want to talk to you, I'm like, well, okay, I have less time every day, and I'll try. And then
I try as well.
Yeah.
I have way more free time than you, but yeah, I try. But like the people do reach out on like I'm sure you get this like randos on LinkedIn that I've never met, and I'm like I'm like iffy. But if they say, hey, you talked to my CLI class about X, Y, and Z, or you did this workshop, then I'm like 10 times more likely to be like, oh, cool, thanks, I'd love to chat for 10 minutes.
And then it's just so fun. Yeah, I had somebody recently be like, hey, I'm looking at a job at this company, and I was like, well, just so I'm the CEO, and I just like texted the CEO, and I was like, hey, I got a person for you. I can't tell if they're good or not, but like I think they'll be good because they came from CLI.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, and then I think can I get the job? So yeah, I mean, like I'm very happy to do things like that because I do think that the group is just so sharp and like they really do attract really good people. So anyway, I loved it. I've hired a ton from it. I'll probably keep hiring from it.
How important was it for like I asked Mish the same question, but like in terms of becoming an entrepreneur? Obviously, you did the GSB Stanford thing too. I'm sure that gave you a lot of confidence as well. But how important was CLI like early on in that entrepreneurial journey, or even today?
I think it was really important in helping establish like my beliefs about the industry. And what I mean by that is I continue to give feedback to folks who are early in the sector, which is like have an opinion. Don't just read Latitude Media.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. Like read media, but like actually have a real belief system. Mm-hmm. And I think CLI more than anything established for me like, here's a thesis I have about a thing. Mm-hmm. Let me go test it hard. And if I'm wrong, that's perfectly fine. But like, here's like a thing I gotta go like stress test and figure out if I'm right or wrong. I think as entrepreneurs, like one of the hardest things is like knowing what you really believe in. And actually, I was reflecting on this yesterday. I had like a few entrepreneur friends over for a climate CEO group we get together, and I think that's the weakest thing about investors. They don't actually have beliefs. Like most investors, just like they just yell money into anything. They're moving other people's money into businesses, and frankly, especially the earlier stage you get, it's less likely that you will know ever if you are successful or not. You do mark up some rounds that don't matter because by the time the company actually has an exit, you will have been fired or have left your moved on to the next thing. So what belief do you really have about the thing?
Yeah. What are your values?
Investor friends.
Yeah.
Shout out. But like, yeah, I mean, that's part of the problem. Like as an entrepreneur, like you live with those beliefs so deeply because like if you're wrong, there are real people's lives at stake. The people you hire, the people who believe in you. And so like CLI helped me, I think, really get a sense of like, what did I believe about in energy?
Yeah.
That I think I had like good intuition, but like CLI helped me like continue reflecting it.
Crystallize that.
And also more importantly, like build a network that I could always go stress test into.
Yeah.
Right? Just be like, hey, XYZ person who works in solar, do you believe this? Is this true?
Yeah.
Or are you just saying it because you want to maintain your subsidy?
Right.
Or do you really believe this thing? And like we could have that debate in a real way that I loved.
Yeah, I love that about the community. It's you can go into any group chat. We have like huge WhatsApp and Slack network, and you can ask the wonkiest thing about this specific EV telematic or chart, or you can ask big picture policy questions, and there will be someone, and usually multiple people, that have really strong opinions about it based off of their own experience. And I think that is infinitely valuable. And it's funny because we're still in the early stages. It's been 10 years of CLI, but thinking about we're still in our 30s, but going into our 40s and 50s and 60s as this energy transition progresses, as politics changes, like I think this network and this community is going to be like genuinely like a huge part of like shaping. Like we could have CLI Congress people and senators and like, you know, I'm sure I know
a few CEOs for sure. We don't yet.
Lots of CEOs, but I feel like the next 10 years is like when we like get into like that real like heavy hitter. And I'm really excited about that. And then I know we talked about Mish, and I talked about you with the pod with Mish about how you funded his startup early on. We both funded.
Very little.
We funded Cole, but you do this a lot. You're a big, early seed investor. Why is that so important to you?
The hardest thing as an early stage founder is knowing that someone has your back. Like the hardest thing is like
someone believes in you.
Somebody believes in you, because it is just so easy. And I think especially investor mindset, institutional investor mindset is, I get a bajillion pictures. It's my job to find the needle in these. And so investors inherently are very good at tearing down. It's literally called it.
Why should I not invest in this?
Why should I not invest? And actually, when I was trained as an investor, the flip side I always used to say was, what do I inherently have to believe that this is going to be a huge business? And so that's my theory. When I ask somebody like, what do I have to believe? But one of the things that I don't have to often believe with early stage friends is that this person's gonna just do it well. Like,
it's about the person more than the idea.
I think anyone who's trying to bet on an idea more than
that
early days
yeah,
is like kidding.
Makes no sense.
And this is where that question of obsession about idea and obsession about technology,
yeah,
that's sort of rife in Silicon Valley, because there's this belief that like,
they fixate on the tech and not solving the problem or pivoting.
Exactly. And I think you have to fixate on person problem much more than over fixating on the tech.
Yeah.
Tech will evolve. The tech will change.
Absolutely.
I know battery companies that have evolved, and they are like deep tech, right?
Like
those people.
There's long duration batteries that went to lithium ion. Right.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of stuff like that. So anyway, I love doing it because I think it's like, one, I have no aspiration to own a house, so I don't want.
So that's your down payment for a Bay Area house. It's all just.
I just think that like.
And if one of them hits, you can just buy a mansion cash. I'll definitely come visit. But
I think it's really about just like betting on people who believe it. And I know I was genuinely so fortunate to have those supporters early on.
Yeah.
Because I lived in a hell of a lot of doubt with a lot of risk. I mean, between visa risk and no cash out of grad school risk and all those risks factors.
Yeah.
This having people who believe in me was like a huge thing. And often it wasn't even the money. It was just the fact that they said, no, I think this is a real.
Yeah.
I was like, you do?
Yeah.
I think it's stupid. What are you talking about? Like, I'm trying to go work with two of the largest industries in the world.
Right.
This is absurd.
Yeah.
And so I think if there's a small thing I can do to help grease the wheels of getting around the way, or just like putting my name next to a thing because that might help their route, I'm happy to do it.
That's awesome. And also, I think investors are very like, they pretend to be very free thinkers, but when they see someone come in, then they're like, oh, I'll come in. Like, because Apoorv's done his diligence. Meanwhile, you're like, we got beers last week, so I'm going to give you 10K.
Well, speaking of other round boys who are friends, like, I literally got beers with my buddy Shyam Srinivasan many years ago. He runs a company called Zatara. I think doing one of the smartest things in the battery space. And Shyam and I got beers, and I just like, I remember he was explaining what he was thinking about this and that. I just remember saying, and he says this line, so this is me quoting him, but he said, you changed the trajectory of how I thought about my business because you said the words of, you're just trying to make batteries bankable. And I was like, oh no, that was just me like trying to understand what you did. I wasn't trying to like give you like a tagline.
Yeah.
But like, that's what they do. They make batteries bankable. And I'm like,
that's awesome.
Oh, I just understood what you were doing. And that makes so much sense.
Framed it. Yeah.
It's like, batteries aren't bankable at all. They're complete garbage. Like, you want to make them bankable. That's awesome. And the technology is awesome, but how do we make the asset awesome?
Yeah.
And I think Sean went off and started a business, and it's awesome to see what he's done. So for me, it's almost just like, I want to understand it. I have deep empathy for you as a person. Oh my God, like that sounds so cool that you've invested all this time and effort and sweat into it already, and now where are you going to take it? if that's something I can support along the way, like hell yeah.
That's awesome, dude. And thank you for doing that. And I know the people that you support like appreciate that, especially early on when you're like, I'm crazy for doing this idea. It's like, no, you're not crazy. Or maybe you are crazy, but I believe in you.
Yeah, doesn't mean I'm gonna give everyone a chance.
No, right, of course, yeah. I'm gonna get all these emails being like, what's Apoorv's Venmo?
Yeah.
So just to close out on a fun note, I have a few questions. I started a newsletter recently, and I asked people, what's like an album or song that's been speaking to your soul lately?
Oh, the new Sabrina Carpenter albums.
Dude, I was listening to it today. I just got a few songs in, but dude, she's awesome. Her last album was great. She got 2 Grammys.
Hey, Sabrina, if you're listening,
Sabrina,
saying,
get on the pod.
I'm single.
Big fan. Yeah. The tears down my thighs is, dude, she's like mad funny. She's good with the wordplay. Tears down my thighs, I thought was a funny.
Brilliant.
That's a funny.
I think she's the girl pop that we all.
I love it. Yeah, I feel like pop was kind of stale for a bit, and I think
she's
no disrespect, but mild disrespect to Taylor. But
I'm not gonna
get into that.
Taylor's move.
Is there a TV show or movie that you've loved recently?
Ooh.
Besides Deli Boys that we watched episode 1 this week.
One episode really good. Like that one. I kind of use that one. It's like wild, but I just recently watched like this very like early 2000s documentary on Napoleon.
Cool.
It was really good.
Great. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't actually that good, but it was good because it scratched an itch that I had.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
we learned some stuff.
Napoleon, so I learned some stuff. Other movies I liked. I just watched Roman Holiday again. That was great.
Yeah. That hit a nerve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a book that changed your life?
I don't know if there's like a book that has changed my life.
Or changed how you approach, like even in a small way, like made you look at the world differently.
So I live in the Bay Area, which means I inherently think
the lean startup.
in the Bay Area, which means I think about the Roman Empire. So
I think that's dudes everywhere. I don't know if that's
dudes
just you.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's like a TikTok meme that's like dudes just think about the Roman Empire.
I think a lot.
America's next.
Yeah, well, so there's a book called The Fate of Rome. It's like not the most like invigorating title. It's also not necessarily written in a way to be like novelistic. It is a history book. It could be somewhat dry for some people, but it is about how climate change and pandemics brought down the end of the Roman Empire. Let me tell you, reading that in 2020 was rad.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, pretty fun.
And
but why it's important?
Yes.
The only reason I'm going to continue going on for just 10 seconds. It's about systematic resilience. And I think like again and again we make a mistake as a society, as an individual, blah blah blah. We talk so much about like our resilience. We talk so much about like things we want to change politically, this, that, but we don't talk a lot about like systematic resilience. And I think the joy or the downside, I don't know, somebody who's grown up all over the world, it's like I do keep asking ourselves, like, guys, like, that's fine that you don't think you like those people in that country and you don't like those people in that state, but ultimately, like, we're all kind of in it together. We're on this one big fucking rock.
Yep.
And so, like, how do we build more systematic resilience is like a place to, like, yeah, I think a lot about that.
Yeah. No, that's a great sentiment. All right, I got to catch my flight, so let's end it there.
All right.
Thank you, dude. And thanks for letting me crash with you.
Absolutely.
It's been fun.
Pleasure.
All right.
This was fun.